Welcome one, welcome all. It is Saturday night. It is Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. Hope you guys are all doing well. And as you know the routine, we are mixing things up a little bit in terms of the start time. This is the second week in a row that we're going to try for 7:30 Eastern time, possibly even go a little later, depending on if that mixes things up with the algorithm. But if you would be so kind, please smash that like button if you're here, so that way we could get this stream out to as many people as possible. It's great to see also many familiar faces, and hope you're doing well. Decided to go a little stealth with black tonight and a little bit more of a messy hairstyle. Feeling a little stealthy at the moment, and we definitely have a lot of things to cover. There's a couple of audibles I had to call, but there is a place that I wanted to start tonight with all of you guys that I thought was very important, because we didn't really have an opportunity to cover the Met Gala. And I don't really want to get into the Met Gala because I don't even think it's that important. To be honest, it really is just a reflection in so many ways of the disconnect when it comes to the haves and the have-nots. The fact that this is an event that is celebrated for any particular reason is beyond me. So that will really, right off the bat, is a big part of it. And I want to remind people that the overwhelming majority of people do not agree with this flaunting of habitual wealth. Sometimes some things are just best left not known. But this is one of the reasons why we get closer and closer to a revolution, because more and more people are being exposed to the realities of this system that is unequivocally destroyed, can't be resuscitated. And this is just another shining example of just that. So here's an example of how the uber rich are treated as they approach the Met Gala a couple of nights ago.
All five of you bitches. Pay your fair share of taxes, you rich fucking.
That is an ugly and
Don't be afraid of the people.
That dress is hideous. We need health care, not another billionaire.
I want to remind people that we used to live in a country not too long ago, within 2 generations, where the top marginal tax rate was 72%. Now, the effective tax rate, meaning the amount of taxes that were actually paid by the ultra-rich, if you will, was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 to 35%. In reality, there are those who would even argue that that's too high. There are those that argue for a flat tax. Here's what we know for sure. The ultra-rich pay next to nothing in taxes. The entire code has been designed so that they don't have to pay anything. And unless you are actually investing in something, giving back to the community, and this is something we'll get into in a little while regarding commercial real estate. As you guys know, I'm involved in that line of work. The whole goal is to never give back. The whole goal is to cheat your way into riches as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And the Met Gala is a reflection of the type of people that want to go to those events. Do you know how much it costs to attend the Met Gala? $100,000 minimum just to get in the door. So it's easy to understand why so many people are frustrated with the prospect of everything going on in this country, at home and abroad. And you have these completely disconnected, uber wealthy individuals walking the streets of Manhattan to a fancy get-together, and all the while knowing that so much of what they do perpetuates the inevitable decline of the American empire, period.
We need health care, not another billionaire. You took your health care. You took it away.
The kids in your way, police have to protect you.
Eat the rich. Barbecue and eat the rich. The rich. Barbecue and eat the rich. Eat the rich. Barbecue and eat the rich.
You know, even if I could afford to go to an event like the Met Gala, I really don't understand what type of people would feel compelled to want to go to such a egregiously gauche event. But so much of that class, so much of the uber rich class, especially in New York, but it attracts people from all over the world. They very much are enamored with the life. That's one of the things that ends up happening in so many instances, especially with our federally elected officials who are not rich, but they become wealthy, if not outright rich, because of the fact that they are A, enamored with the life, B, are in the life, and C, will do everything to protect that life. And so this brings me to a story that I wanted to cover but didn't have the chance to with Jen from this past week regarding Anna Kasparian. And she decided to respond to somebody who I personally think is one of the most obvious Mossad ops in all of politics, and that's Emily Austin. This is a person who I personally know, and I'm sure she has seen what I've said about her, and that's okay because the truth hurts. And this is a prime example of who Emily Austin actually is and how she thinks when it comes to this populist America First uprising that's happening on the political right.
Tucker?
To me, he's extreme right.
Really?
To me, he's like riding Russia, like glazing them. He's also on Candace's Jewish conspiracy theories.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, big time. I have no respect for him anymore. I did a lot, and I would love to see if he's receiving foreign money.
I thought when he interviewed Putin, it was kind of an important interview, honestly.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree with his political takes, which again makes it harder for me to dislike them.
You see, the reason why this privileged princess says what she says is pretty simple. She agrees with all the other takes except for Israel, because that is an unacceptable line that you cannot cross, because that's who she works for. That's how she has the career that she has. Here's a little secret about Emily Austin that probably would surprise you. I am 20 years older than she is. I think that's amazing because personally, I think I look fairly decent for my age. I thought Emily was in her mid-30s when I met her. It turns out at the time, she was 21. Now, I'm not one to just judge people based on their exterior, but clearly her interior is so hollow that perhaps the aging process is being sped up on her part. Just a thought.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree with his political takes, which again makes it harder for me to dislike them because they're on that anti-Semitic wave. It's unfortunate, but to me, they're falling into that like alt-right category where they actually hurt the Republican Party because people affiliate all of us with extremists like them. Like not all of us are so black or white.
Well, she is definitely not somebody who I would break bread with. Again, at the time, I didn't know who she was, but I was actually pretty suspicious after I eventually figured out that something just really didn't make sense when you consider just for somebody so young and yet was having so much impactful influence, especially with RFK's presidential campaign. And then it really dawned on me that, yeah, she was his AIPAC handler, or just his Jewish handler, if you will, because there is no other explanation. A person like that does not have over 2 million followers on Instagram for somebody who clearly does not have a lot of talent, with all due respect. It really does speak to the level of influence control that the Zionist state truly has when they want to boost people through social media platforms. And Emily Austin is a prime example of that. So why do I bring her up? Well, she decided to take a shot at Anna Kasparian because, as it should probably come as no surprise to anybody when you consider what this first story is all about, Emily Austin was at the Met Gala. Should not come as any surprise. But she decided to take a shot at Anna, and here's what she had to say.
Take a moment to just mention briefly one other thing. So I've engaged in lots of debates with the pro-Israel crowd. Most of them have been on Tucker Carlson's show. I've been on Al Arabia, I think 3 different times, oftentimes debating an entire panel of pro-Israel people. And it gets fiery. I get it. I mean, I had a Somali Uber driver tell me recently that he's a huge fan, supports everything I do, but just wants me to stay calmer. I get it. I need to stay calmer. But at the end of the day, what I focus on is the substance of the debate.
There are times where you do not need to be calm. In fact, there are times where being calm is actually detrimental to the cause. Given the situation, it is sometimes necessary to lose your cool, to pretend that things are not habitually horrific. Even though there's the factor of decorum politics that some people still want to adhere to, there's a time and a place. I understand what Anna's saying, but the one thing Anna's really good at is just letting it fly.
Yes, sometimes I will call people like Jonathan Conricus a terrorist because I genuinely think he's a terrorist. It's not just an ad hominem. I'm just trying to inform the public of what I genuinely think about the IDF spokesperson. However, the pro-Israel crowd seems to be getting desperate. And the reason why I know that is because they don't even try to engage the substance anymore. They just engage in dehumanizing insults. And Emily Austin, who gets paid by Israel to carry out their Hasbara and admitted as such on her take when I used to be a host on that show, decided to compare me to a cockroach. Now, this was on the night of the Met Gala. She tweeted something about it, and I ignored it because the vermin thing has a very ugly history. And she, as a Jewish American, knows that. She knows that. And I found it so gross, I didn't want to draw attention to it. So I ignored it the first night. And then the second night, she decided to put out a video making the same joke. And I responded to it and just made a point about how they can never dismantle my arguments. First, they try to smear you as an anti-Semite, of course. They try to get you fired. If that doesn't work, they'll go after your family, as they've done with my husband, and try to get him fired. And by the way, they might accomplish that. And if they do, I will go nuclear.
I have dealt with similar circumstances already, as you guys know. I've been visited by the cops, intimidated, threatened, phone calls late at night. I lost my job. This is no joke. And our channel is heavily suppressed. So if you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do so. It really does help. Anna is absolutely correct that there is that point where you just say, I'm going to conduct myself in a professional manner up to a point. And in the case of her husband, who it appears that they are trying to, I've been aware of this for a while. I think that I don't remember if it was Anna, if it was Emily Austin specifically that was going after Anna's husband to get him fired from his job. But this is something that's been going on for a while. So it doesn't surprise me that this is a story that is still rearing its ugly head. And Anna has more to say.
They'll do whatever it takes to censor you, destroy you. They'll never engage the substance of your argument. And that's what losers do. That's when they basically publicly acknowledge for the rest of the world, we are not on the winning side of this issue. We know that we're attempting to defend the indefensible. So rather than even engage in a defense of Israel, we're just gonna smear those who are trying to get the truth to the American people. So we make better decisions in our political system and get the pro-Israel crowd out of our government. So
that is exactly the point. And that is the fight that we have ahead of us for probably several years. But that is the fight, and that is how we win. You know, we can show you various paths. We can show you various examples of what is going on a daily basis, the lies, the Hasbara that is repeated ad nauseum. All of that is relevant, obviously, to everything that we do here on Revolutionary Change. But make no mistake, the real fight is how we disassemble this relationship through various channels. Obviously, elected office does matter, but it is the collective organizing of the working class of the America First movement that will dismantle the Zionist state from its infrastructural control over our country. And that is exactly where we are on the same page in terms of myself, Anna Kasparian, and many others.
I don't know what to say really about Emily Austin and the fact that she decided to invoke one of the most disgusting, dehumanizing, vermin statements made against the Jews during the Holocaust. Somehow it's okay. And by the way, I don't care what Emily Austin has to say. I'm unbothered by Emily Austin, but I just want to note that what gets them so riled up is that I have a problem with innocent people getting killed. I have a problem with millions now in the Middle East being displaced from their homes being demolished, not just in Gaza, okay, not just in Gaza. Israel has been involved in the destruction of Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, even though they're not succeeding in getting what they really want from Iran, which is regime change or a failed state. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on. I have a problem with what the Israeli government is carrying out with the use of its military.
A military that we fund, that we are responsible for. And that's where the rubber meets the road. We can only do so much to halt their efforts abroad. But what we can do at home is cut off the head of the snake, which is their money supply. And that is what the America First movement truly is about. Taking back control of our country in terms of how our money is allocated. And right now, we have very little to no say whatsoever in how that is done. So we have to organize and fight back.
I have a problem with the injustices that we've all seen streamed in 4K, day in and day out for the last 2.5 years. And for that, for me having a problem with that, Emily Austin believes I'm a roach. You're on the losing side, baby girl, and you know it. You're not cute, you're not clever, you're not talented, and you're unable to defend the indefensible. So how about you just shut up?
That would be a novel suggestion, and one that Emily Austin is not going to take. And like many others, they are paid very handsomely to spew this nonsense. We all know baby girl is fighting words. We know that. Us men should understand that when a woman calls another woman baby girl that she's mad at, trust me, it can end well. So what this fight is going to look like, it's going to look something like this. The continued exposure of these paid for cogs in the machine. And as some people have pointed out, Emily Austin, by most standards, would be considered an attractive woman. I'm not going to say that she isn't. But just because somebody is easy on the eyes doesn't mean that they aren't cold in the heart. And for the almighty dollar, there are those who will sell out, point blank, period. But who knows how long that almighty dollar is going to last? You see, that's the real question that I don't think enough people are asking themselves. And while very often there seems to be a way to connect these pieces together, and in some cases more obvious than others. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, commercial real estate, that is my line of work. That is what I do. And New York, which is where this event took place, is a primary stomping ground for a lot of what's going on right now, because for those of you who know my politics, know that I'm libertarian on a lot of issues. I'm progressive on others. I'm very independent. I view them individually. But most importantly of all, the most important issue for me when it comes to politics is, are you bought and paid for by corporate special interests or not? To me, that's the primary issue. It's the one issue that I care about, that above all others, because it will determine whether or not you can break bread with somebody. And in the case of New York, and in the case of where we are with real estate, this is a huge problem that's going to be addressed again later on in the show. There is a financial, we'll just say secret door that certain people can walk through and get what they want. And whether or not that involves a litany of different forms of bribery, it's a very common practice, but one that I want people to understand is much more of an issue than people realize. So in New York, it's very common to understand that the Zionists are very much in control of the real estate industry. That's a huge thing in New York. It's a huge thing in Miami. And it's a huge thing in a number of other parts of the United States, but in particular, New York and Miami is where it's at its strongest. And so credit to a very funny man, Walter Masterson, who got into this. So the real deal, if you don't know who they are, this is a very popular Instagram channel that follows all the latest maneuverings at the highest levels of real estate. And they hosted an event this past week in New York. And a handful of people managed to get in there that the people that were hosting the event clearly did not want them to be there.
Acknowledge you for taking $2 billion of the city's money.
Sir, this is not the time for this. Sir, this is not the time for this. Guy, please.
You, the taxpayer, are going to pay for this. All of you are going to pay for this. You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it.
You're out of order. You're out of order. This whole freaking system's out of order. And he's right. It is 1,000% out of order. And this guy, Jeff Blau, he's quite the guy. We'll get to that in a minute.
You're going to pay for it. The taxpayer pays for this.
Welcome to New York.
We need more luxury housing. Are you going to wrestle me? You're going to wrestle me? We need more luxury housing in Hudson Yards.
Coach, can I just tell you, a lot of people have paid to be here today.
No one gives a flying fuck that people paid there to be there today. In fact, because they did pay to be there today, all the more reason why that room should be disrupted. And they didn't pay just a little bit of money. Chances are they may have spent thousands of dollars to be there, to take in the wisdom of the very uber rich and powerful that is New York Zionist real estate. People really don't understand that the difference between today and perhaps even the past few years, if not outright yesteryear, is that these types of disruptions, they're happening a lot. Now they're happening all the time. This is a much greater frequency. People are going to events and they don't know what the hell to expect. What are they going to do? Be like Debbie Wasserman Schultz and cart it off from all public and make sure that everything is private? That's what they're heading for. And that's probably what they want anyway. But again, the more they do that, the more the public unites against them. That's what's going to happen.
And it's really not fair what you guys are doing.
Jeff Blau, your $2 billion money grab is going to displace low and middle income New Yorkers. You are destroying the fabric of our society.
Guys, Remy, I need like real security here. What the hell?
I got an idea. Why don't you get off your lazy, wealthy Zionist ass and do it yourself? But you see, guys, they're just used to everybody else doing the dirty work for them. They don't actually want to have to do the work themselves. You see, that involves effort. That involves real elbow grease, and they don't have any of it in those silk suits of theirs. You see, they pay people to do everything else. They're also the people who jack up rents so that people can't afford to live. Hey, live in a hostel. Live 2 or 3 to a room. We got profit margins to make. Let me tell you, I've met quite a few of these guys in Vegas at various events. They are as slimy and disgusting as you could possibly imagine, which is why I don't work with them. I do not hide the fact that I don't work with Israelis, and I won't. Principle over profit. and you can still make profit. But you need principle first. If you don't have it, then what the hell are you doing? You have to be able to live with yourself. These guys clearly can, and they're pretty freaking evil, to say the least.
Here, what the hell? This was clearly coordinated.
Thanks, guys. I'm leaving. So Jeff Blau is getting $2 billion from New York City, from the taxpayer, to build more luxury housing in Hudson Yards.
We had to disrupt it because a lot of folks don't know about the backdoor shady deals that Eric Adams has been made with our taxpayers' money.
You know, the other thing that doesn't get talked about enough, and this is one of the reasons why I actually am a supporter of Zoran, and I actually think he's doing a very good, if not an outright great job, considering everything that's been thrown at him from the very beginning that he took office in City Hall. Can you even imagine the type of shady backroom deals that were done once Zoran was elected and Adams still had a couple of months to put things on the books that he would ultimately have to deal with? This is one of those examples. And I'm sure there are several others. This isn't the only one. This is the only one that we know about. But believe me when I tell you, this is going to get a hell of a lot worse. Do me a favor. Get out of here with that shit. If the best we've got is Zoran, that's what we've got. And trust me when I tell you, I pay very close attention to this. I don't think he's gone far enough, but he has done some things that are 1,000% tangible. Unlike the other person claiming to be the leader in New York, like AOC. AOC is just a capitulator, but Zoran actually is doing some good. And this is an example of the type of events that need to be exposed.
A $2 billion dirty deal in the back door, which a lot of folks that live in our community do not know nothing about it. Look around the room. Nobody my color really in there. No low-income tenant living in there. You don't see those folks in there. They don't have, their voice is not being heard. They don't have no option in this. The community don't have no play in this. This set of play is being dealt in the back door shady room. Thank you.
Thank you.
Damn right. And that's why this is becoming much more of a problem. So why is it a problem? I can tell you that the person in question that was confronted at this event, Jeff Blau, he is exactly who you would think he was. Here he is. Jewish real estate developers convene emergency meeting to support Andrew Cuomo. Plus, Senator Gillibrand is holding firm to her criticism of Democrats who condone the pro-Palestinian slogan, globalize the Antifada. I think she meant globalize the enchilada. But that's Jeff Blau with his wife, whatever her name is. Anyway, Lily or Lisa. Okay, so real estate tycoons gather to back Cuomo over Mamdani. The sirens are blaring from some New York's wealthiest, and this was from last October. Group of real estate tycoons gathered to meet with Cuomo in Midtown Seagram Building and help him defeat Mamdani. Clearly, that didn't work out. An email about the emergency meeting on Monday night came from Jeff and Lisa Blau, a powerful couple in real estate and investment who have donated generously in the city, including to Jewish groups. But I think we all know that the phrase Jewish groups could just be generate generously to Jewish groups and maybe some other stuff throughout the city. Sorry for the late notice. We got to get this done. Lisa Blau is the executive director of Be Counted NYC, which has been calling on New York Republicans and non-affiliated voters to switch their party registrations to allow them to have an impact through primary elections. What she's actually promoting is the idea that you need to get involved on our side, meaning that if you're not on board with endless corporate interests in New York City, then don't bother. But if you are interested in that, then that's a very important part of why you need to switch over to the Democratic Party for the purpose of voting. Mamdani has been quietly seeking to win over the police and all those people. And again, this is the part of politics that Mamdani has played that I don't agree with. You see, he's still playing footsie with Tish, which I really wish he would not do. And that's a big part of, you want everything, but you can't have it all. You're at least getting things that are moving in the right direction. And for that, we should be appreciative. And that's why this is a big deal. But the bigger deal here is what type of real estate events are actually taking place in New York City. What type of events are people actually attending? And what exactly is being sold to the general public? Well, it turns out that one of the things that's been happening in New York City, as it should probably not come as any surprise as these organizations collaborate together on land sales in Gaza and the West Bank. And a few of them were confronted on the streets, I believe, after this event.
Let me get closer for a picture. You want an autograph? Oh, you want an autograph? You want an autograph, bro? What do you want? You want an autograph? Why are you following us from fucking Piker? Why are you following us from 3rd Avenue for?
I'm not following.
Why are you following us from 3rd Avenue?
I'm going
we
to
saw
the
you
fucking
following
subway.
us. Go the fuck out of here.
I'm going to the fucking subway. Get the fuck out of here.
Get
the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. You fucking loser. You're a fucking loser. You come to every one of these fucking things, you fucking loser. Do you have a job? Huh? Go get a fucking job, you deadbeat. Go.
And there's the first bit of truth that a Zio scum is going to tell you. He asked him, do you have a job? He said, no, I get money from your government. I don't have to have a job. And then I come and I buy land from the people that were massacring. What are you going to do about it? That's the question that needs to be asked to every American in this country. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Are you going to do anything? I've done, I've done a lot and I haven't done anywhere near enough. We are all responsible for this shit. All of us. It is incumbent upon us to take responsibility for not being more involved and doing what is necessary to break this stranglehold. They do have the money. There's no two ways about it. But they don't have the numbers. Not even a little bit. They are so out of their element when it comes to the type of numbers you need. What they have is bribery. Now, bribery can only, it'll get you far for a little while, but it can only keep you there for so long before enough people start to notice. And guys, if you haven't smashed that like button, let's get over 500 viewers right now. Smash it if you haven't already. We really appreciate the support. And to be honest, they have every right to be brazen. They have every right to be. We don't do anything to stop them. We're trying, but it's not enough. You got to make them scream in their wallets. That's where it happens. And collectively, we need to be working together. And that is the only way. That is the only way. They're out there. They're not even citizens of this country. And they're telling you, get fucked because we can do what we want. I don't know. Thumbing in the eye. You can only take it so many times before you say, I'm not going to take this anymore. I hope it's resonating.
Get a fucking job, you deadbeat. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
With your little fucking hate rag on.
Hate rag?
So it turns out that the shirt that this jackoff is wearing is from the Jewish Defense League, which, if you know anything about them, is a very extremist group. One of the groups that I believe was targeting Zoran when he was running for mayor. So this should not come as any surprise. But then again, these are the types of people that don't actually pull the trigger. They just have somebody else do it for them.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck you are. You guys got in my face, you fucking losers. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I don't support killing Jews. You're a fucking moron. You're a fucking moron. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking loser.
I see a guy like that. Let me tell you, when I see a guy roll up like that wants the smoke, those are the types of guys that I get like, okay, you want to fight? Come after somebody who's actually prepared to fight you. And of course, they do it when they've got a bunch of cops to stand in front of them so that they can be protected, so that they don't have to worry about getting in the crosshairs. That's what happens. That's why this is so funny. They think they're so tough, but they're really not. Why do you want to kill Jews? Why do you want to kill Jews? I'll tell you what I want. I want Israeli Jews, Zionist Jews. I want you the fuck out of this country. They don't want you here anymore. Go to your little land. Do what you have to do. If you can survive in the wild, good for you. But not on our dime. The future is not on your side, and the numbers prove it. The old folks are not letting this go so easily, but the more we break down the hyper-partisan nonsense, the quicker we recognize that these barriers can be broken and we can get to the heart of what the real problem is. Dividing us into teams doesn't work. Or at least it did, but it's not working like it used to. And that's refreshing. That's why I have hope. We should all have hope, despite how angry these individuals make us. But it's only going to last for so long. Now, I have been one to say that electoral politics is an overrated aspect. It's not an aspect that doesn't matter. It does matter. But I want to be very clear about what's going on in California right now. Shout out to our friend of the show, Butch Ware, who has been tossed off the ballot in the California primary for governor. He is now a write-in candidate. The Democratic Party did everything in their capacity to make sure that his voice was not heard. He was the one true candidate running for governor in California, despite all the obstacles, that was perhaps defiantly anti-Israel. For the hundreds of millions and the outright billions upon billions of dollars that are funneled out of California to Israel every year. This is a supermajority Democratic state. And I know some people are happy about who's running for governor right now. Some people are getting really excited about Tom Steyer, thinking that he's going to be the one to make a difference. Well, let's start with the people that are running for governor right now and what their opinion on Israel actually is.
A word that I use.
We don't know what happened there.
There should be an investigation.
I do not believe that Israel's actions in the Middle East is a genocide.
No.
I'm not sure I'm qualified to define it, but what has happened to the Palestinian people, I think, has gone way too far.
I think what the Netanyahu government has done in Israel cannot be classified as within international norms.
Benjamin Netanyahu's government has been pushing very aggressively against the idea of a two-state solution.
We need to focus on what it will take to save lives there, and we've spent a lot of time fighting over the meaning of a word.
I've said it before, I will say it again, and I am not going to mince words. The Democratic establishment is much more dangerous than the Republican establishment because they will do the exact same thing that the GOP is doing now through Trump, through Netanyahu, but they will do it with much more rosy, considerate language to make you think that they actually care, when in reality, they don't give a damn. And that is exactly what they're saying here. It's really unfortunate what's going on, but what are we supposed to do about it? Not support them. It gets even worse.
What's happened there is a human tragedy. Anytime you see children dying, you should be horrified. I know I've been horrified.
My message to everyone is quit believing your phone. Quit believing social media. Quit believing just one news network or one frame of mind. You have to investigate. You have to use critical thinking skills, because you are being led down a path to believe something that either is or is not true, depending on the side.
I have not been on the ground and conducting an investigation, but there should be an investigation. There has been enough evidence that the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, should fully investigate allegations.
While I don't believe it's genocide, I do believe some of what I've seen is excessive.
Is that so? Some of what you've seen is excessive. Okay. So here's where we're at. This is important. Annually, California gives over $600 million in California state taxes to the state of Israel every year. So you can understand why these guys don't really say very much, or why their language is extremely coded, because they understand that if they get out of line, their corporate checks for their campaigns are going to go bye-bye and then just go to somebody else. And that's how they play it. That's why Katie Porter's no different. They're all the same, except for Butch Ware. You see, Butch minced no words, and that's why they had to get him out. You can't have somebody like that, especially in a state in California, having that type of a platform, speaking out against it. Oh, no. That's the point. That's why they can't talk about this. That's why they're talking like this. It's really sad what's going on to the Palestinian people, but I got an election I got to win. You know what I mean?
I don't support Netanyahu.
We have to make sure that there needs to be ways to support the survivors and to bring in humanitarian aid and to help to rebuild what has been destroyed and to create a real government for the people, for the Palestinian people.
I think the number of people who died in Gaza during the Israeli action was extreme. I think Netanyahu should answer for all he has done before the international community, because this is not the way you conduct affairs, I don't believe, if you are going to be a part of the community of nations. And I believe if you take a close look at the international laws that we have in place that should be respected by all countries, the way Israel handled the Gaza war went beyond what is internationally.
It's still going on. It's not a war. And you are overthinking every word you say because you don't actually believe anything that you say. You're just trying to avoid stepping in a puddle of shit. That's all you're doing. And this is Bakara. So, he's considered one of the favorites along with Steyer and Porter. So naturally, he's choosing his words very carefully. But this is a reflection of the liberalism versus conservatism. Conservatives are werewolves. They'll come right at you. Liberals are sheep. Wolf in sheep's clothing. They always have been, they always will be. They just say it in a much more gentle, sentimental tone. But in reality, it's the same future. Take both paths, go with anybody that's not willing to actually fight back against this problem. You're going to end up in the same place.
Allowed.
That is an old question, actually. The question right now is the government of Benjamin Netanyahu and the government under Donald Trump together are prosecuting a war against Iran that is hurting California. It's raised our gas prices. It's raising our food prices. It's raising our mortgage rates. And they're taking $200 billion of our money and burning it, bombing someplace a world away for no reason that helps us or that I can even understand.
You have no options, do you, in California? You really are screwed. Enjoy that voter guide while you're at it. Now, if you think that that's bad, the person who the DSA and these other organizations who decided to not get behind Butch Ware decided to get behind Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer is projecting himself to be what you would call good billionaire. He's the good billionaire. He's going to do right by people. He's going to help. Okay. So he decided to sit down for an interview with Hasan Piker. And here's what he said regarding this issue.
What I think is this. I think that this Israeli government has been trying to take over the entire country and expel the Palestinians and take over the whole thing, kit and caboodle. And that's what they've been doing for a long time. It's absolutely wrong. There's no question there. And they're willing to commit war crimes to do it. That's what I think. And that's been going on for a long time.
So you don't want to make you're not committing to the term genocide.
I don't actually, I think, you tell me if this is what it means, because it's sort of like socialism, if you excuse my saying so.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think they're trying to kill all the Palestinians? No.
At this point, it is safe to say, based on all estimates, that probably at a bare minimum, 500,000 Palestinians are dead. As many as 750,000 are dead. And again, I could be undercounting it. Who's to say I'm not? But when you hear them say, you know, you got some of them now admitting that it's at least 100,000 that are dead. Just the idea that you do not treat this as a genocide in every conceivable measure, the way that they kill women and children, the way that they blow up hospitals, target aid workers, shoot children dead at food distribution sites. That's been well documented, not just by Anthony Aguilar. But this is a prime example of my ego and my politics are too important to be human. I want to have power. I want to have influence. I want to run for president of the United States one day. And if that means that a whole bunch of kids have to die that are in the middle of the, you know, Middle Earth, if you will, West Asia, is what it is. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. You know, every time the shit libs get pissed off at conservatives that say thoughts and prayers is exactly what every one of these Democratic candidates for governor of California are saying right now to the Palestinian people after 2.5 years of genocide. Thoughts and prayers. Hang in there, guys. Pray for a better existence.
No,
I think they're trying to expel the Palestinians from the country, that they're trying to have one state.
That would be genocidal intent.
I don't know what that is, but that's what they're trying to do.
That is a genocidal intent.
They're clearly trying to take over the West Bank. They're clearly trying to take over Gaza. They're willing to, go to extreme, merciless lengths in order to do that. Hasan, that's what there's a history that's 10 years of doing that.
Well, it's longer than 10 years.
Well, whatever. Yeah.
Started off with ethnic cleansing in 1948,
but that's what's going on. I don't know I honestly don't know what genocide means, but
if you don't know what genocide means after all this time, and you are a multi-billionaire who was putting TV ads in the middle of nowhere in Yosemite, California, that I woke up to in the morning back in February when I saw that on the TV screen, and the fact is that you don't even know what the hell genocide means, it is proof positive that there are people who have too much money and too much power that are not that intelligent. They're just not. You would think at this point, especially in California, that you're running for governor and you do not know how to respond to this question, even if you were to lie through your teeth, which you're probably doing anyway, this doesn't work. And yes, Tom Steyer is Jewish. Do I think he's a genocide supporter? No, I don't get that vibe from him. But do I think he's indifferent? Yeah, I do. And this is a prime example of that. He's acting very indifferent. And credit where credit's due to Hasan for pushing back at him. That's what you're supposed to do in these interviews. Don't let him just have it. Steyer needs you. You don't need him. Hasan understands that part of the equation probably as well as anybody who does any form of left politics. I don't agree with Hasan because he is unequivocally a supporter of the Democratic Party, and he chastises people who support third-party initiatives. But where's your leverage, Hasan? Where does the leverage come from if you're just going to capitulate and say, well, we got to vote for the blue team in the end? They don't have any reason to change. That's a fact.
I do know they are trying to end up controlling the whole state, period.
Again, not enough. And in the end, they will sacrifice as many people as humanly possible to get what they want. And that's effectively what's going to happen here. And I feel terrible. I really do. But it's not enough to feel terrible. We have to take action. And the action involves not giving in and continuing to share as far and wide as we can. Because the one thing that we fall into as a trap, ladies and gentlemen, is this echo chamber that we're all in. We are all in this echo chamber of trying to figure out how the hell we're going to get out of this. And all the while, as we try to figure it out, one of the big problems is that while there are a lot of people paying attention today as to what is going on, we're still a very small microcosm of the population that truly understands that. Most people are just casual observers and they don't really know. They want to believe that the United States is not this terrible nation, but we kind of are. I mean, we really are in a lot of ways. And for people that believe in American exceptionalism, they can't get that out of their head. And that's why when I say that the right is doing more to fight back against this problem than the left is, this is why. As Jen often likes to say, don't mess with the red team. Don't mess with people that are armed. Don't mess with people that actually know how to fight back. And one of those prime examples happened just the other day when Tyler Oliviera sat down for an interview with Tucker Carlson, and they do not mince words about the genocide. In fact, they don't mince words about the supremacist angle that exists here in the United States.
As a taxpayer, it's like, we're going to take your money. If you question it, you're anti-Semitic, and we hate you.
What was anti-Semitic about it?
The ADL said it harkened back to anti-Semitic stereotypes of them being a drain on society or something like that, when it's all statistically corroborated. I'm not pulling these out of my ass. These are welfare stats I was quoting, and then I would go to the direct source asking these people, what do you do for a living? How many kids do you have? How do you afford your kids? Are you on welfare?
Now, whether anybody wants to hear it or not, there are certain advantages that certain cultures have in this country. And the Zionists, the Jewish culture in particular, has a huge advantage. Financially, politically, infrastructurally wise, they have a huge advantage. And this is a prime example of that. And Tyler Oliviera, whether you like him or not, did his job as a journalist. You could say he was not a yellow journalist, but he definitely went into this with the intent of, causing controversy. Well, controversy he caused, but there is a lot of truth there. And that's why when the ADL gets involved, when Mr. Green Baldblatt gets involved and has a problem with what you're doing, well, it would seem to me that he must have struck a nerve. Did millions of people see his expose about how things operate in certain Jewish communities? Yes, he did. And they're not pulling any punches. I wish that there was a populist left attitude about that, the way that they go for the throat. But as I said, the capitulation to the Democratic Party is the last remnants, because the one thing we've seen, the one thing that is clear as day, there is little to no capitulation anymore from the America First movement to the Republican Party. And that's where the change is going to come from. You cannot capitulate to the Democratic Party. You have to make them think that they can't win without you. And if they choose to lose without you, then you go somewhere else. That's why Butch Ware was running. You have more power than you realize. You just have to act on it.
How is that anti-Semitic? And why do they get their own brand of their own proper nounage of racism? That never made sense to me.
I agree.
It's odd, right?
It is odd.
It's weird, yeah.
It is odd. I haven't thought too much about that, but I think you make a fair point. How is bigotry against one group different from bigotry against any group? And of course, if you believe in absolute standards, it's not. It's all the same. It's all variety is the same thing. But if you believe that only one group should be immune from criticism, then you're not against racism. Of course, you're an advocate of racism.
Sure.
Right? You're arguing a kind of supremacy.
Yeah, Jewish supremacy.
Yeah, or any kind. I mean, any kind. If you can attack
in this case,
anyone but white Episcopalian men. Everyone else is fair game.
What other group
me.
Can you not discuss, though? Right?
I don't know.
You can disrespect Christianity without any flack. You can disrespect Islam legally. They might kill you for it. And seemingly with Jews, or at least some of these groups of Jews, the legal fare may begin. You might get deplatformed or pulled off some sites.
So what happened? Okay, so what happened? So you do this video in New York at Kiryas Joel. What kind of reception does it get?
The Americans are happy. Thank you for calling this out. The locals who live in nearby communities, thank God someone has finally come here and spoken out about this.
Oh, the locals have strong feelings about it.
Oh, they're perpetually grateful to me because no one has ever touched this because seemingly it's radioactive.
Now, why is it radioactive? Why is it such a big problem? Because it just turns out, and we've covered this before, one of the things that ends up happening in so many cases when certain Jewish communities, primarily Zionist, end up taking over communities, they take over everything. They take over the entire infrastructure. They take over the city council. They take over the planning boards. They buy up all the properties, and they turn them into their own communities. Now, Lakewood, New Jersey, Kirstenwell, New York, I mean, this just happens to be a couple of examples, but they're in a lot of places. This is not an unheralded circumstance. Now, they don't have the population or the ideology to dominate nationwide. However, if they're strategic in terms of where they are dominating, they put themselves in a position where they can pull the levers of power. And that's what they've done. And in New York and New Jersey in particular, those are two places where they've done it. They've done it in Massachusetts. They've done it in Michigan. They've done it in Illinois. There's California. Look at what we just showed. This is how it is. I know the truth hurts, but the truth must be told.
If you have any political ambitions, they die overnight if you talk about this. This is a strong voting bloc. And on top of that, they're leveraging the generational guilt of the Holocaust. You're anti-Semitic if you oppose any of what they're doing. So I was a hero to the local communities that live nearby.
Just to be clear, the Holocaust was not committed by Americans. We were actually the people who ended it, I think.
You can't make this up, Tucker.
And he's right. For one thing, it does take courage to do this, to go into communities and cover what a lot of people are either afraid to cover or don't want to cover. But Tyler Oliviera showed one of the most important aspects of why I am, first of all, I can never be a Republican, ever. But I have a lot of libertarian leanings. And one of them is when it comes to our constitutional rights regarding the separation of church and state. I do believe that our First Amendment is our most important. If we do not have the ability to separate those who simply believe something, that's the thing about faith. You can't prove it. It's just a belief. And when people say that this land was promised to us 3,000 years ago, well, we know that that's bullshit, obviously. But just the same is true when it comes to faith. It doesn't mean it's not true, but you can't prove it. And in this world, by that measure, you must separate the church and the synagogue and the mosque and anything else from the state. And in the case of these communities, they are riding the backs of the state through their religion. This is a clear violation of our Constitution, and it happens all the time. And both parties are guilty, but the Republicans are worse, bar none. They made a conscious effort to get in bed with the Christian right all those years ago through Jerry Falwell in conjunction with Ronald Reagan, and we have seen the results. They are really bad. And they gave way too much power to people who should never have had it. And this goes for both sides. But Oliviera is absolutely right about this. So keep in mind that when we discuss this problem, it's not about Jews, but it is about a portion, sizable as it may be, of the Jewish population that is involved in this. And it is a problem. And mincing words is not going to make it better. Dealing with the problem, ripping off the Band-Aid is how you deal with it. The loudest voices in the room who speak out against this are primarily Jewish because they understand the implication of what it does to them. That's why Jen speaks out. That's why Katie Halper speaks out. That's why Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, and many others speak out. Miko Peled. It is imperative that we continue to put the pressure on. And if that means cross-pollinating with people that we don't agree with, it is imperative that we do that. So, tip of the hat as always. And Tucker does a great job. He's a smartass, but he's my kind of smartass. And Tyler Oliviera obviously pissed off a lot of people. He did. And he did a great job. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, which we hope you are, and it looks like we've been hovering around 500 viewers for the night so far. I don't know if that makes any difference based on the time that we got started, but we appreciate each and every one of you being here. Please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed, yet still growing channel. We just passed 125,000 subscribers, a big hat, a tip of the hat to you guys for being here and always supporting the program and continuing to spread the word as best you can. Also want to give recognition over to Substack, which we're going to get to in a minute. We're going to talk about Dan Bilzerian and Nick Fuentes in just a minute. So make sure you go to substack.com/@revolutionary change. I've kept my word so far. We have at least one Substack per week. On that average, we're going to stick to it. I'm going to keep pushing that out. So make sure you read the Substack on Dan Bilzerian. Well, actually, I'm going to read it to you guys in a minute, but hang tight for that. But we do have to get to our super chatters, of which there are plenty so far. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Peter Hager, unofficial campaign advisor, Bilzerian for Florida 06. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Jim Talib with the $5. Always a pleasure, my friend. Star Lion with the $2. Angelo Gage, Adam Green, Adam King, Fuentes, our FBI. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of these guys are connected. No question. Piano Man with the $10 super sticker. Appreciate you, my friend. Always great to see you. Hot Dog, $14.92. $5. I support revolutionary change. Keep up the good work, and we appreciate you, my friend. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. I got in touch with Aaron, and Dan is making this race easier for Fine to win. Aside from Dan's carpetbagging, his rhetoric against all just is toxic for Florida 6. I definitely agree. There is a way to do this. If you do it without being strategic, you can't win. And that's where I question Dan's strategy, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But let's continue with our awesome super chatters. Mark J with the $5. Thank you, Peter, for your courage and hard work for serving such a high purpose. Thank you for your support. Kenman G with the $2.79 Canadian A. Progressives backing AOC for president. They probably will. That doesn't mean that that's enough of a coalition. Kenman G with the $2.79 again. Butch Ware had no chance. Lots of Israelis in Cali. Yes, there are. But again, that doesn't make up the whole population. And why kick him off the ballot? What purpose does that serve, Kenman? It only further divides, but it actually encourages more and more people to get away from the current system, especially the Democrats. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. MBS figured it out. Greater Isra end of monarchies. Look, let them keep dredging, which is what they're doing, and see how much worse it gets. Kenman G with the $2.79. Democratic socialism, not enough to save us. I agree. It's definitely not. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Hasan ain't much of a Hun. I'll tell you that. Fair enough. Kenman G with the $6.99 Canadian A. Progressives saying Carlson and Owens are anti-Semitic, so don't work with them under any circumstance. Wait, I don't understand what your point is. Are you suggesting that they're anti-Semitic, or you're saying that progressives are saying that they are and that that's their excuse? Again, we have to be, I will work with Tucker and Candace, and I consider myself progressive on a number of issues. I may not be a full-on progressive, which I'm not, but that doesn't mean that I don't support many progressive issues, the biggest, of course, being single-payer healthcare. So there are many places that we can fight on the front lines, and this being Israel being one of them for sure. Teresa, always a pleasure. Thank you for gifting one Revolutionary Change membership. And Pirate Justin with the $2. Bilzerian 2026. Massey Kana 2028. We'll see what happens. You know, it'll be an interesting few months. And then obviously the big race, of course, is in 10 days. It is exactly 10 days from today that Thomas Massey has his primary election against, I'm not even going to say Mr. Ed's name, but somebody who's been bought off by the corporate establishment. So let's just leave it as it is. With that being said, Also, a big shout out to our supporters over at Rumble. Guys, if you are not subscribed at Rumble, please make sure that you do. It is revolutionary change on Rumble. We appreciate each and every one of you that are here this evening, and obviously at substack.com and patreon.com/revolutionary change. So, I have obviously voiced my opinion before regarding Mr. Bilzerian and my suspicions of him. Obviously, my suspicions of Nick Fuentes. A lot of you guys have been watching this spat that's been going on online lately. I don't feel the need to pull up tweets and, kind of drag this out. That type of stuff is silly in my opinion. But the thing that Bilzerian did recently that I thought was highly questionable in terms of strategy, which I think anybody who is supporting this effort would look at and say, yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. Of all the people, Dan Bilzerian, that you're going to attack, why are you attacking Dave Smith? Like, that one really doesn't make any sense. Dave Smith is somebody who not only has done a really great job of being a conservative Jewish voice against the state of Israel, but he's also the person that pretty much lit the fire when it came to Charlie Kirk's demise. He embarrassed Timu Little Ben in the form of Josh Hammer on that stage at whatever TPUSA called that Summerfest event that they had this previous summer. He embarrassed him. Dave Smith is an ally. He's not an enemy. And the idea that you throw him under the bus makes me think that you just hate Jews. Like, what other example would there be? If you think that there's Amfest, if you think that Jewish supremacism is a problem, that's fine. But you make it so obvious that you think all Jews are evil. And that's fucked up. Period. And somebody's got to call your ass on it. And I'm calling your ass on it because you're waltzing in like the Pied Piper thinking you're going to go win that election. You're carpetbagging into the district first and foremost. You are bringing a suitcase full of money, sure. But are you trying to win is the question. Or are you just wasting people's time? Are you just trying to build your brand? Who the hell knows? But I decided to write a Substack about this. So this is my second one. You guys let me know what you think. My plea to Dan Bilzerian. Randy Fine has been testing the limits of his gargantuan reputation since entering Florida politics a decade ago. Despite being an ever-reliable vote for the corporate line of U.S. domestic and foreign policy, his abhorrent rhetoric is starting to become a liability for the pro-Israel cause. So much so that he now faces a primary challenge from multiple candidates who firmly identify as America First. With a recent Gallup poll finding 3 out of 4 Americans under the age of 50 reject the Israel ideology, the prospect of a major upset in a district that does not have a sizable Zionist population is very possible. Enter Dan Bilzerian, the highly opinionated, albeit highly controversial influencer who is seeking public office for the first time in a district he does not reside in. In fact, he is making his carpetbagging pilgrimage from Las Vegas to Central Florida with a gluttonous, debauchery-laden past that is a wet dream for GOP consultants looking to make a strong impression in a very conservative district. He gives them a lot of cannon fodder, that's for sure. If the goal is to unseat the rotund ogre of Capitol Hill, making Fine into any form of a sympathetic figure while having the incumbency to fall back on is a guaranteed win for him. Political rallies are usually weekend events that are intended to not only garner new support for a candidate while reaffirming current support, but it is also the most effective vehicle for organizing massive door-knocking campaigns when enthusiasm is at its highest point. So then why is Bilzerian holding his first major rally of his campaign in a location that is 30 miles outside the district? As a former congressional campaign manager who did not break bread with the corporate establishment, there were many political landmines that crossed our path and only became more profound as we garnered varying degrees of momentum. Which is why Bilzerian's constant use of coercive language and apparent lack of strategy leads me to question how serious he is about this endeavor. Enter Nick Fuentes, the brazenly bigoted yet exceptionally talented orator and podcaster attempting to stake his claim as an America First leader, who is in the midst of a digital war with Bilzerian. The revelation by Fuentes that Bilzerian engaged him in person with questions related to assassinating Israelis and even Ben Shapiro are not only highly disputed, but call into question what Nick's motivations are. Fuentes was never arraigned, much less prosecuted, for inciting involvement with January 6th, while many others who were only on Capitol grounds received egregious sentences. Fuentes has also been exceptionally evasive when the topic of Israel and their purported involvement in Charlie Kirk's assassination is brought up by his audience. Now he is engaging in psychological warfare to derail Bilzerian's campaign, as both accuse each other of being feds. My plea to Bilzerian is simply this. If you're serious about winning this election against one of Israel's top assets, prove it. Break bread with Aaron Baker, another primary challenger with roots in the community who ran against Fine in the 2025 special election and is currently backed by AZAPAC. Bury the hatchet with Dave Smith, a libertarian firebrand who is not only Jewish, but has denounced Israel, including during a well-publicized Charlie Kirk-moderated debate with Israel Firster Josh Hammer mere weeks before Charlie's removal. Engage with the many members of the Jewish community that are against Israel. The monumental task of winning a congressional primary against a well-funded incumbent could take at least 30,000 votes and potentially millions of dollars. It is incumbent upon you to build a grassroots movement where voters are clamoring to volunteer as well as contribute financially to build the necessary infrastructure to win. The election is in 3.5 months. It is won on the ground, at the door, on the phone, in the town halls, and with a solid coalition. It is not won through viral tweets. You have the money. Do you have the fortitude to do the work and the humility to do it right? The thing about politics that will always happen in many cases, which is why people suggest that Fuentes is a Fed and Bilzerian's, maybe he's a Fed, and all these guys, who's Feds? Who are these guys? Why do they do what they do? I'm going to be very clear here. I don't think that Bilzerian is genuine in his anger about what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank and in many other places like Lebanon, Yemen, Iran. I'm sure he is pissed off, as are all of us. But the thing that I do question is, what is his motivation? Does he want to win? If he does he truly understand what he's getting himself involved in here? And Nick Fuentes, for the love of God, there are people who swear by this guy, and yet he's out there saying, now go vote for the Democrats. It's a great idea. Or Bilzerian's a Fed and he's dumb and he suggested shooting up Israelis and shooting up Ben Shapiro. If you're not on the mission, if you are not fighting the fight that needs to be fought, then you're just spinning wheels and wasting time. We don't have time for that. But when people show you who they are, then believe it. Because the more Israel loses control of the narrative, the more desperate they will get to haul in as much infrastructural support as they can from as many people as they can. One of those people who is a pretty controversial figure on social media is Lucas Gage. Now, this is a guy who piggybacked on Fuentes' commentary about Bilzerian, saying that he, in fact, was correct in his assessment of Bilzerian. Now, here's a person who recently came out in this conversation by a guy named James D. Russell, Mr. Zio Extraordinaire, saying, a far-right influencer who left the JQ movement, disavowed anti-Semitism, and is building bridges with the Jewish community. If I could just talk some sense into everyone, we could definitely save people's lives. Lucas Gage, in an era where public figures rarely admit error or pivot from entrenched ideologies, Lucas Gage stands out as a compelling example of personal evolution. Once a prominent far-right influencer deeply embedded in the Jewish Question podcast scene, the U.S. Marine Corps veteran has undergone a remarkable transformation. In June of 25, he began publicly exposing some of the movement's most toxic grifters and anti-Semites. By Valentine's Day of this year, he delivered a sincere, heartfelt announcement. He was finished with the JQ movement entirely. He disavowed anti-Semitism and declared his new mission to be one of building people up and forging bridges with the Jewish community. What followed was not mere rhetoric, but concrete actions, personal integrity, and a growing body of evidence that Gage's change is genuine. Lucas Gage's background already hinted at a life of reinvention. Born in Italy, he immigrated to the U.S. as a child, became a bilingual, blah, 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 joined the Marines, stays a devoted father, family man, animal love. That's important. Get on the heartstrings. Quality that reveal a man grounded in human connection rather than ideological combat. In the summer of 25, that authenticity was on full display when Gage intervened to save a fellow veteran friend from suicide. That's great. That is great, but I don't know what that has to do with the story. Through patient counseling and conservation, he helped prevent a senseless tragedy from an American warrior battling PTSD. Episode underscored Gage's commitment to real-world service. The turning point came in June of 25. Long immersed in far-right circles, Gage began using his sizable platform to expose what he saw as the vile and dangerous grifters and anti-Semites. Thriving in the so-called JQ podcastian movement, chief among his targets was Stu Peters, one of America's most vile anti-Semites and guest of this channel. Gage presented compelling online research that reportedly helped spark a two-state investigation into Peters and the alleged J-proof rug pull, a financial scheme that allegedly left numerous white nationalist families on the brink of foreclosure and bankruptcy. By the end of 2025, Gage had grown thoroughly fed up with the low IQ grifting element that dominated parts of the scene. He continues to call out, including Jake Shields, Elijah Schaefer, Morgan Ariel, and Ken O'Keefe. Ken O'Keefe, we're hoping to get on the show soon enough. And a host of additional Jew haters who, in his view, use their platforms to lie, grift, and allegedly steal from their own audiences. Culmination arriving on Valentine's Day in a raw and unscripted announcement, Gage declared that he was done with the JQ Quit movement. He explicitly disavowed anti-Semitism and stated that his future would focus on positive construction rather than destruction. Since that day, Gage has channeled his energy into life coaching and philosophy. He now promotes coaching courses and philosophical content on his new YouTube channel aimed to elevate rather than divide. He also reached across long-standing divides. On April 27th, he sat down for coffee in an extended conversation with Jake Turks, senior White House correspondent and a devout Jewish Zionist. How much longer is this, Colin? Yeah, it's quite a bit. I think we get the idea. Now, why is this a big deal? This is what Lucas Gage, before he got his mind right, had to say about what's going on.
In New York, there were several different mob families, but there was always one on top who ran the show, because they're the CEOs of crime. And this is what the Jewish supremacists are. When I speak of the parasite class, I'm talking about everyone at the top. But the Jewish supremacists are the CEOs of the parasite class. And everyone sees it. They don't like it. And everyone's talking about it. They don't like it. And all they could do is censor more people, proving they're the ones running the show. But there's always people call, it's not them. I'm telling you, man, you don't got it. You're wrong. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? How many people lost their job talking about the Vatican or the Jesuits or the Illuminati or the Builder? No one. No one gets fired. Talking about these groups. The Freemasons fired this guy off Twitter. No one gets fired for the Freemasons. No one's getting censored for Freemasons or the Bilderbergs or what other stupid Chi-Com nonsense. There's only one group that no one can talk about, and it's the Jews. And everyone knows it. Even the people shilling for them know not to talk about them. Don't bring them up. Don't say anything. Hey, get off my show. Cut the camera. Show me one time someone got kicked off talking about the Jesuits. Never happened, never will happen, because they're not the ones in power. Not the Vatican, not the Bilderbergs, not the Illuminati, not the reptilians, none of these fucking scapegoats. It's Jewish supremacy is the number one enemy of all mankind, and that's why we have to all unite against it.
Take with that what you will, but a person who changes their opinion from that all the way over to that has definitely been gotten to. That's what happens. Threatened, promised, whatever it is. Once you fully understand how the financial system works and why we see what we see and why we can never get out from under it, you understand why these things happen. It's pretty obvious. Now, I'm going to show you a prime example of just that. Now, if you think that this is a joke, trust me when I tell you it's not. I looked into it. I made sure it's not. I thought it was, because trust me, when you see it, you're not going to believe it, but this is real. This is another example of how the Zionist cause games the system.
State of Israel announces the year of Od Yoter Tov, 0% income tax for New Olim. You read that right. 0% income tax for New Olim for those who make Aliyah in 2026.
So effectively what you have here is the ability to make your pilgrimage to Israel, and then you don't have to pay anything. We'll have you set up real nice. This looks like a joke, but it's not. And I'm thinking, all those months ago, when Matt Kim and Peter Saddington, in fact, that was probably at least a year ago, maybe more, when Matt Kim and Peter Saddington did their, what was considered a highly controversial podcast at the time, where it was revealed that they knew people in the banking industry because they were Jewish getting no interest loans, even when the interest rates were sitting at 7%. This is an example of it in real time, where they're telling you, yeah, we have a way to just skip the line. That's what they're doing. This is a supremacy issue. When you consider how broken our system is, this is pretty bad.
And this is in addition to the existing benefits for New Olim in employment and beyond. It's simply Od Yoter Tov. 100% Zionism, 0% income tax. Now is the time to make Aliyah.
Now, I do want to point something out here, which I think is also the silver lining, if there is one, to this story. If they have to resort to this, if this is what they're promising, 0 income tax, just make Aliyah, what that tells me is that they really are getting desperate. They have to convince people to join their cause. And they're having a very difficult time doing that. For far too long, these types of issues have been kept in the shadows, but now they're out in the public eye. And we have to keep them there. It is imperative that we do. By doing so, we allow people to see just how far down the rabbit hole this really goes. And there will be people that will be tempted by this. How could they not be? I don't have to pay anything. All I have to do is make Aliyah and support the Israel cause, and I don't have to pay income tax. I mean, it is what it is, guys. Now, obviously, this is for very specific people that won't have to do it, but they're rubbing it in our face now. Maybe this is something that they were able to keep secret for a long time, but today they can't keep it secret anymore. They kind of have to put it out there because maybe, just maybe, the reason they have to is because they're not having a very successful time in convincing people to support the cause. But maybe they can do what they've always done, which is bribe people to support the cause. And if you do that, maybe you might have a chance. But you have to be hurting real bad if that's what this has come to. This is a level of desperation that I think is real. And you can't ignore it. And so, good luck. You'll need it. I think many people here at one time or another have probably seen Chris Hansen. They're well aware of what he does. Catch a Predator. He's done an amazing job of that for many years. And so when we talk about the individuals within this ideology that believe that they are above the law, this is one that is actually pretty satisfying. Now, what is going to happen to this individual, I'm not 100% certain. But we're going to set the stage for you before we play the clip. Now, this is coming from Blade, which is the primary LGBTQ publication in Washington, D.C. So mind the language. Gay D.C. police lieutenant arrested on child porn charges. Matthew Mall once served as head of LGBT liaison unit. There you are. This is a man who did security for Netanyahu Milikowski. That's right. That's who this is. Got a good one here. DC police announced on April 14 that they have placed one of their lieutenants, Matthew Mall, on administrative leave and revoked his police powers after receiving info that he was arrested in Maryland one day earlier. Although the initial DC police announcement doesn't disclose the reason for the arrest, it refers to a statement by the Harford County, Maryland Sheriff's Office that discloses Mall has been charged with sexual solicitation of a minor and child porn solicitation. On Tuesday, the Harford County Sheriff's Office contacted MPD's Internal Affairs Division shortly after arresting the lieutenant. The allegations in this case are extremely disturbing and in direct contrast to the values of the Metropolitan Police Department. MPD's Internal Affairs Division will investigate violations of MPD policy once the criminal investigation concludes. MPD is not involved in the criminal investigation and was not aware of the investigation until yesterday. Mall served as an acting supervisor of the MPD's then Gay and Lesbian Liaison Unit in 2013 when he held the rank of sergeant. DC police officials placed him on administrative leave and suspended his police powers that same year while investigating an undisclosed allegation. So he's clearly got a rap sheet. A source familiar with an investigation said Mall was cleared of any wrongdoing a short time thereafter. Of course, once they know he's connected to Israel, that is pretty much all she wrote. NBC reports that Mall 47 has served on the police force for 23 years and most recently was assigned to the Department Special Operations Division. Records related to Mall's arrest filed in Hartford's County District Court show Sheriff Department's investigators state in charging documents that he allegedly committed the offenses of sexual solicitation of a minor and child porn solicitation on Monday, April 13, one day before he was arrested. The court records show that he was held without bond during his first appearance in court on April 14. The decision on whether he would be released while awaiting trial or continue to be held without bond was scheduled to be determined during that bond hearing on April 15. The outcome of that hearing could not be immediately determined. And so, how did this go down? Let's bring in Chris Hansen.
We're involved in security for the Israeli president, Netanyahu. Did you meet the Israeli leader?
I'm sorry, I'm not answering any questions so I can speak to an attorney.
You sent photos of your penis erect? You told the boy you ruined your shorts, meaning you ejaculated while you were talking to him. You asked for explicit pictures of him. You say the age of consent in Maryland is 16. This boy is 15. You knew this was illegal. And you had multiple chances to not commit this crime, but you did anyway. Which makes me wonder how many times you've gotten away with it before.
And that is the $64,000 question. We only have one such incident that is on record that took place 13 years ago that we're aware of. Do you really think he hasn't done anything in the last 13 years, especially if he's protected by Netanyahu and the Israeli government? Who's to say that he's not on a plane already over to Tel Aviv? But that is the game these guys play. He's so proud of himself, he sits there with his dark-tinted sunglasses on, like he's above reproach. But don't worry, scumbag. The whole world sees you for what you really are. An abuser, pet her ass.
Do you have CSAM on your phone?
I'm sorry, I'm not answering any questions until I can speak to an attorney.
You talk about being busy in training. The boy says his parents will be out of town at a work conference. How long was your drive over here today from your home in Maryland?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not answering any questions until I speak to an attorney.
You talked about taking him out after getting to know him for cheesesteaks. And if it goes well, you say you'll meet the monster at the end of the happy trail. Just tell.
The type of language that some of these men use, whether with girls or boys, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's pretty perverted and sick how they describe their fantasies. And I completely sympathize with those who do not want to ever have to engage themselves, in the dating scene. I get it. I do. You never know who you could be talking to. You never know what they could be involved in. And this is a prime example of just that. This is a person who's supposed to be serving and protecting, not serving with protection. Did I just make a joke?
Tell me what you meant by that.
I'm sorry, I'm not answering any questions so I can speak to an attorney.
You feel pretty good about yourself today, huh? Think you were outsmarting everyone? A month and a day you spent chatting with someone who told you they're 15. Not just a cop, but a lieutenant. You sent pictures of yourself in uniform. You sent pictures of yourself from your office at the Metro DC Police Department, lounging on your couch, grooming a child. What should happen to you, Lieutenant?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not answering any questions so I can speak to an attorney.
I guess you won't.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen to him. if he isn't able to get extradited to Israel, he's finished. And he's finished in more ways than one. This is not just a pederast, an abuser of children, and a purveyor of pornography, child pornography. This is a cop. So if he does go where he should, he's not coming out. He might enjoy it for a little while, but let me tell you, if there is a tailor-made inmate to be shown street justice, this is the guy. The problem is he's part of Netanyahu's security detail. And what that tells me is he's probably got a get out of jail free card. And he's pretty defiant, as you can see. I'm sorry, sir, I'm not answering any questions. I have my attorney present. Yeah. You be defiant. But thank goodness they're getting him off the street. And as I said, what will ultimately come out during disclosure, more than likely, is that this guy's been an abuser for years. Years. He's got the shield. He's a lieutenant, for God's sake. You want to talk about things that he's probably swept under the rug? How many lives have been ruined because of him? Let me tell you, when Chris Hansen gets involved, Chris Hansen's like the FBI. They're not coming for you unless they got the goods. And boy, oh boy, do they have the goods. But as we've said, and we've seen this many times before, when you have that Israel connection, as much as we want to say that these guys are going to get what they have coming to them, in so many cases, they never get it. Maybe this time they will. Here's hoping he does. And the reason why we fight so hard, as we often do, to try to bring some semblance of justice as best we can, is because we cannot forget what fight we're fighting here. And all too often, that seems to be the problem. Guys, if you haven't smashed that like button yet, if you're watching this evening, please make sure that you do. I want to share with you a story that is not going to be easy to take, but it's a reflection, once again, of why we do what we do on this channel, to draw as much attention to what the Zionist entity, genocidal Zionist entity, represents to the world, that we are unfortunately conscripted to economically as we speak. And we have to do everything we can to pull away. If you think the genocide in Gaza has ended, if you think the current genocide, yes, I have no doubt that it is, in the West Bank and in southern Lebanon is taking place, this is a story that still doesn't have a conclusion, but I think we all know what really happened here.
This is a story of one family from Gaza, their terror and terrible loss, and their fight for answers. It's a mystery about much-loved relatives who've disappeared, and asks, is this policy? And how many others have vanished in Gaza? It's also the story of a single photograph. On the left of the picture is 41-year-old Huda al-Akkad. Sitting next to her is her 78-year-old mother Aisha. The two of them are in the back of an Israeli military vehicle. There's no explanation from the Israeli military about why they're photographed like this. Why?
What is there to say? You have two petrified civilian women in some type of a tanker with three shit-eating grinned Zio scum taking a picture to where almost undoubtedly they are taking these women to either violate them first and kill them after, or just kill them. This is from December of 2023, and they haven't been heard from since. You're looking at their killers right now. And I'm sure these three men can easily be identified. How hard could it be? But again, as we pointed out recently, protected class. At least that's how they see themselves.
Why they were detained, and very little detail about what happened to them afterwards. Their surviving family members are clinging to the hope that somehow their relatives are alive. They only discovered the picture recently, some 2 years after it was taken, and they urgently want answers.
By God, I demand justice. Our whole family does. We hope they're alive and we can get them out. We want a medical body, anybody, the Red Cross, anyone to stand with us, go through all the procedures and find out which prison they're in.
We want justice and someone held accountable. We want to know what happened to them. Where are they? Have they been killed by the Israelis? Are they in Israeli prison somewhere? We want to know.
We've been looking into the photograph with a team of investigative lawyers from around the world. We've pieced together the events leading up to the disappearance of the women. We've interviewed witnesses and surviving family and examined satellite images. We've compiled open source intelligence and scrutinized the soldiers' social media posts. The Glan lawyers have been involved in several legal cases against Israel in recent years. Together, we're left with multiple worrying question marks about the women who disappeared.
This photograph, at the very least, illustrates that these two women were taken captive by the Israeli military in very degrading conditions.
As a human rights lawyer, it's one of the most worrying things that can happen when a state takes in people and makes them disappear.
When this is done systematically, it may amount to a crime against humanity.
You know not of what you speak, Mr. Flat Earth guy, although if you think that the earth is flat, then you're already half gone to begin with. There is a difference between the two ideologies because one is actually a religion and the other is a genocidal, insane ideology that must be crushed and removed from society. And you want to say anybody who's Jewish, who's a Zionist, needs to be removed? Hey, that's your prerogative. But to suggest that there are not good Jewish people in this country, you're falling into the trap that Bilzerian is pushing out there. And that is a trap. And again, I get the hatred for Jewish people. I get it. But that is what Zionists are counting on. They're counting on you not making the distinction. They are counting on you not figuring out that the only way they survive is by uniting the concept of Zionism with Judaism as one and the same. That is the only way they survive. Christian Zionism is going to break because there's too many people that are part of the America First movement that are seeing through evangelism and are just going to end up probably going to another denomination of Christianity. That's very likely. But this is a much bigger problem. Again, are you a Christian, Mr. Denton, Texas Flat Earth guy? Do you identify as one? And if so, what's your denomination? Oh, well, looks like you got banned from the comments. But that's the problem. There's too many people out there that they have a lot of anger in their heart, and I don't necessarily blame them. I got to be honest. I'm surprised there hasn't been an overwhelming amount of violence directed at Jews in this country. All they care about complaining about is whether they feel safe or not. Let's find out how safe these people in the West Bank actually feel. Again, distinction with a difference. This is Zionism, and this is the West Bank where Hamas doesn't exist.
The land! Don't touch the land! Get off the land! This is not your land! Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here?
Notorious settlers who expelled more than 1,000 Palestinians in Ras Al Ain and southern Jordan Valley right now relocated and built an outpost in Taibe, in East Ramallah.
With all the people and the children, the Palestinians slay so many years. So many years. Come to dance, come. We're doing dance class. We're doing group dance, we're grieving, we're doing retreat.
Since the morning, they brought their sheep, donkeys, and camels and built a sheep pen just 5 meters from the Palestinian homes. Oh my God! Soldiers who are right now present here and obviously absolutely hate their job keep repeating us that settlers are allowed to be here.
In the end, settlers are allowed to be here. In the end, they can do whatever they want. These guys are in tactical gear, harassing farmers, land dwellers with no weapons, no threats. Just imagine what it would be like if they actually were up against a real army that had the same weaponry that they did. They would run away like the cowardly bitches that they are. But that's why they attack women and children, because that's what cowards do. And they gleefully go along with this evil. Like I said, we can't stop what's going on in the West Bank, but we can stop what's going on here at home if we ever get our shit together. Which is why when people get distracted and do the things that they do, it speaks to the greater problem, which is who's really doing this for the reasons that matter, or who's just doing it for clout, and who are dishonest actors. I don't know. But here you have a clear example of why we need to band together. Can't win otherwise. But there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them. Remember that.
And shaking hands with them, smiling. Nothing new. The settlers already managed to cut the fence to Palestinian sheep pens, and just like that, the lives of 20 Palestinian families here in Taiba have changed. For them, it means no sleep at night and guarding their houses day and night, being constantly on alert.
Чебурашка and crocodile gena? Tak nu? Irit чебурашка, irit crocodile gena. Yo!
What's your name?
Shapaklak, tak nu, shapaklak. Меня звати Shapaklak.
For the past several hours, we were on the Tagbari settlers who were throwing stones at us and cutting the fence.
הם זורקים עלינו אבנים, אתה מבין? בוא אני אראה לך.
אני לא משקר. אני מישהו שלא מאמין, אין לי מה לדבר. יאללה ביי. תמיד כאן בשבילכם.
The army came and declared this area a closed military zone, which means that they're kicking out both us and the settlers. Currently, settlers are leaving, but according to our experience, it doesn't mean they won't come back.
Here, I see only front.
Oh, you enjoying the view?
Now, no.
No?
No.
They gleefully commit crimes against humanity. They don't care. There is no salvation for the Zionist cause. None. And he's just one. That crooked-mouthed fool is going to get what he's got coming to him, and so do a lot of other people. I do have a burning blood rage inside of me, as I'm sure a lot of you do too. How could you not? You can't look at this and think, yeah, this is normal. Let's just, sweep it under the rug and pretend like it's not happening. We know what's up. But as I always say, it pays to end on a positive note. So let's do that tonight. We have been noticing the numbers, as we pointed out earlier tonight, that Zionism is not welcome in the United States, especially by people under 50. And that ideology doesn't matter. It just matters that there is a unification against the state of Israel. And as we've seen, especially amongst the college kids, they're doing all right. Some IDF soldier decided to show up at Towson University, what I guess was the end of the semester, and perhaps they're trying to recruit people. Towson, Maryland is a fairly affluent area. I don't know much about the Zionist population in the state of Maryland, but it wouldn't surprise me if this happens to be one of the breeding grounds for that. However, as we have been seeing these pop-up tables in support of the state of Israel and the IDF cause, we see what happened at Yeshiva University in New York City. Didn't go over very well. Well, now they tried it here at Towson University.
No!
Fuck that shit. Hey, you a terrorist, bro. Get off my shit. Do something. Do something. Why you walking up terrorist, bro? I'm not going ain't nothing. Well, I know about this. We're not paying $30,000 a year. $30,000 for tuition to have a terrorist.
Correct. And that's just one example. We've got another one. And this is in international waters. We mentioned that the Zionists have been finding their way into Thailand, Southeast Asia in general, Thailand, Philippines, and this is Vietnam.
Hi, excuse me. I'm just filming a documentary and I'm wondering where you're from. Oh, Israel. Oh, Free Palestine. Okay. It's the best country in the world. Sorry guys, where are you from?
Israel.
Free Palestine. Is everyone from Israel in here? Are you lot from Israel? I love Palestine. It's the best country in the world. Israel does not have the right to exist. You lot are Zionists. You do not belong in. You don't belong in Vietnam.
He took out his camera. He's probably sending it to all of his IOF soldier friends to say, find out who this woman is and get rid of her, please. Made me feel unsafe, you know?
How many of you have served in the IDF? Free Palestine, baby. Free Palestine. Nobody likes you. Free Palestine.
Hey, that middle finger was promised to her about, I don't know, 3,000 years ago or something. Let me tell you, you got a lot more to fear from the woman getting up out of her chair than the man. Let me assure you. Because those ladies are nuts. But that middle finger, they're very defiant when they feel that they're in control, but they're going to find it very difficult. This is just one person. This is what's so amazing. They're losing their mind over one person flipping or giving them the business, and they're feeling threatened by it. What if 10 people showed up and said, you Israelis are dead people walking? What are they going to do? They're going to freak out. They are not given enough business.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
What are you going to do? That is the essence of this broken ideology. They are a little too comfortable, just a little too comfortable for far too long. And that's why there is going to be many instances where this is going to get perpetually worse for them. And it will. On Monday, we are going to cover Honduras Gate and what is going on in the global south here in the Western Hemisphere, the efforts that are being put forward by the Trump administration, Israel, and Milei down in Argentina. I did say that the good Jewish woman in Claudia Scheinbaum, yes, does exist. Hold on. Oh, I got to see this. Yeah, you talk a big mouth, big boy. You have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And when Bilzerian gets his ass handed to him by Randy fucking fat ass Fine, you're going to ask yourself, how the fuck did that happen? I'm trying to help him be a better candidate, and you're acting like a cuck little bitch, not understanding political strategy and nuance. It's amazing how many of you don't understand anything. Like anything. You got shit for brains. You can't take an ounce of criticism. All of you guys who cuck to these fucking podcasters, what the fuck is wrong in your own personal lives that you feel that somebody like Bilzerian needs you to come and defend him because I ever so slightly gave him criticism about his strategy, which is not sound? Tell me. Tell me how I got it wrong. And that Nick Fuentes is obviously an op. The guy changes his mind every 5 fucking minutes. Tell me how. I just want to know. The only thing that I do here is try to unite people. That's my job. I have no stake in this whatsoever. In fact, I got a lot of criticism from a lot of people who do not think that I go far enough when it comes to criticism of the right. Fair enough. But I have a goal. My goal is to break the Zio state. Dan Bilzerian is not breaking shit. He might break his bank account. But I'm telling you right now, if you have any intention of being successful in this thing we call the political arena, I don't have all of the answers, but I know a few things. I've been around the block a few times. I have. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. I've been on the ground. I know the people who run the show at the local level. I know some very powerful people. I know some very rich and powerful people. I know one of the most powerful people in this country right now working with the Trumps. I met with him personally. So please, do not ever come into this chat and try to act like you know jack shit, because you don't. If you're defending Mr. Bilzerian and his strategy, thinking that that's what's going to get 30,000 votes in Central Florida, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. If anything, I'm trying to help him, even though I really don't want to. But I want Randy Fine out of politics almost as badly as I want Debbie Wasserman Schultz out. And I didn't have enough time tonight to get to Wasserman Schultz, but we're going to get to her because Debbie, as we have seen time and time again, as I've been saying for many, many years, she will drag the Democratic Party, especially in Florida, to hell with her if that's what it takes for her to save her ass. And that's politics. Politics is a dirty business. And if you can't take constructive criticism, get out. Get out now, because you will not last. Very few people do. I told Jen a long time ago when she was running for office, and she confided in me about why are people such scumbags in politics, even people that you suspect are supposed to be your friends, people that are supposed to help you. And not only do they not help you, but they stab you in the back. We had somebody working on our campaign that stole money, a lot of money. And you know what the lesson is, ladies and gentlemen? If you are in, especially federal politics, lesson number one, be prepared to be let down. Be prepared for people to fuck you over. Be prepared to be given bad advice. Be prepared to lose, and lose a lot. Do you know why? Because when you are up against the machine, and the machine has a lot of money and power to throw at people that are desperate, they will cave. Not everybody, but a lot of them will cave. And everyone has their hands out, and everyone's ready. Randy Fine is a prime example of a person who literally tests the limits every day as to how far he can go and still have support. And you know what? I don't think there is a line he can cross where he won't get it. First of all, because we all know how Israel has total infrastructural control over our State Department, and they make the calls. And Randy Fine has been a great foot soldier. Now, his rhetoric is abhorrent. and it only makes things worse. But for now, they don't see any path of resistance coming their way that could stop them. So why would they not support him? No matter how much people bitch, moan, and complain about Randy Fine, the odds that he wins again is very high. And that's understanding politics. This is a cruel fucking world. And having some humility is one of the hardest things that a lot of people can't do in politics. Prime example would be Debbie Wasserman Schultz can only win in the district she's trying to carpetbag her sorry ass into if there is not a meeting of the minds amongst the black candidates. If there is, she's probably on her way out. But if there isn't, and the ego gets too big, and Debbie has all that money, if you think she can't win in a district that is 85% black, trust me when I tell you she can. I know this game pretty well. And I am forewarning you how badly this can get. It can get bad. Now, in the long run, we're on the right side of history. But man alive, if there aren't people who just don't get it. And that's the way it is. As I said, I don't have all the answers. Neither does Jen. But we have quite a few of them. And we understand how this has to be done. And we sure as fuck ain't doing it for the money. Because if we were, you would hear a lot different language on this channel. And you already know that we are buried in the corner, even on a night like tonight. Normally we're consistently getting 800 live viewers, 1,000 live viewers. We got up to, we didn't even get to 550 viewers. You think that they're not burying us? You think that there's not a deliberate effort to suppress our message? Of course there is. Because what we talk about is what actually makes change. They can't have that. That's why you will never hear certain people go past a certain point. If Dan Bilzerian was serious about what he was doing, would he be trashing Dave Smith? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You want to trash somebody like Nick Fuentes, who clearly is not above board? Regardless if you like him or not, you have to recognize that there's something that definitely doesn't make sense with that guy, aside from his abhorrent rhetoric in many cases. But Dave Smith is a good guy. And he means very well. And he embarrassed Little Shapiro's Timu knockoff, Josh Hammer, to the point in which it freaked out the TPUSA bankrollers, aka the Jewish Zionists of New York and other places like Mr. Ackman, that felt the need to drag Charlie Kirk to the Hamptons for a heart-to-heart talk. That was Dave Smith who did that. And you're shitting on him? There's a reason why some people think you're a Fed. And I get it. So if you're thinking about getting involved financially in any way politically, until shown otherwise, do not give Dan Bilzerian a cent of your money. He wants that election so bad, finance it yourself and see how far you can go. There are plenty of other places, there are plenty of other people that deserve the support that are going to make a legitimate difference on Capitol Hill if they get there. The first one is Graham Plattner in Maine, and I think he's going to win. The other is Abdul El Sayed, who is running for the Senate in Michigan, and I think he's got a real chance. But you know what just happened earlier today, folks, that not everybody's going to be talking about? Haley Stevens, who looks like dead in the water, chump change, can't get out of her own way. A new super PAC just formed today and put $5.3 million behind her. What did she do to earn all that money? just going along with the Zionist cause. That's it. The Zionist cause will get you exactly what you want if you play ball. We covered Lucas Gage earlier this evening. I think Lucas Gage is a nutcase, but it is interesting to watch these guys go through their transformation for the shekels. Dance on a string, Bojangles, as the saying goes, and they'll dance. Because what else do they have going for them? I can't even begin to fathom what it's like to live on social media all day long. How often do you see Jen and I tweet or message on social media? A few times a week? There are people who do it a few times every 10 minutes. I don't get that, like that life. Oh God, no. Shoot me now, because I could never. But hey, that's the life you want. So be it. Not fulfilling. We do this because we're trying to fulfill change that actually matters. That's our goal. And you know, I am so happy that I didn't have to address this person the entire show. Not once. I didn't even get a chance to talk about Candace tonight. Aaron Baker's a good dude. He's definitely worth some support. He's been on our channel. Check out the interview. We'd have Bilzerian on, and I wouldn't pull any punches with him. He probably wouldn't like it, but you got to keep it 100. And the same goes for anybody. Even when even Butch Ware, when he's been on, I push back at him. I think there are things that he thinks that I don't agree with. But that's what this is about. We're not supposed to agree. We are supposed to disagree. That's half the battle. And I do this because I care. I love my country, and I hate seeing what's happened to it. And I think we all bear responsibility for why it's falling apart. Because we've become completely captured in many ways. And that's our fault. So don't give in to despair. There's a lot more fight ahead of us. We got 8 super chats that I got to get to before we get out of here. Thank you guys again. And of course, remember to go over to Substack and subscribe there if you haven't already. As you know, my new Substack is up. Go check it out. I know I read it earlier, but some of you might not have heard it. So please go over and check it out. And let's get to our final super chatters of the evening. Constance Ange 222 with the $2. Aaron Baker is the only one to beat Randy in FL6. Listen, I think Aaron Baker would be an extremely formidable candidate if he had money. He doesn't have money. Now, if Dan Bilzerian's primary objective is to get Randy Fine out of office, put that $1 million behind Aaron Baker and he would win. That I believe. 100%. If he had the money, he could win. I would say that about a lot of good candidates, and Aaron Baker's one of them. But if it's an ego trip, can't convince a guy that that's the path forward. The ego will always fight for wanting to be in the spotlight, and that's where Bilzerian can't help himself. H299 with the $9.99. Thank you very much for the support. Appreciate you, my friend. JB, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the $2. We don't welcome Zionists in Maryland. Well, that's good to know. And thank you again for the $2. We appreciate you, Peter. Keep up the fight. Thank you, my friend. Kenman's with the 279 Canadian A. UKO 595 is a low IQ individual. Don't know who you're referencing, but I guess I'll have to take your word for it. You did donate after all. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Moscow Pete, 40 Zios detained at airport, told not welcome. That's great. We in Russia don't exactly like those Zio scum coming into our country. Besides, most of them are Ukrainian anyway, and that's a problem. Uncommon Magic with the $2. Would love to see Dan versus Fine in the octagon. Yeah, that would not last very long. And Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. Aaron said FL6 is very old school and church going. Yes, they are. Extremely so. And again, the only reason why Bilzerian, why Fine won in the first place is because he had the backing of the president and he had the financial backing of the Zionist state. And that's why he won. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have won. But it was a big step. But the president is not who he once was. And the Zio influence is not what it once was. But if you're going to fight fire with fire, you have to be strategic. And being strategic requires one to always check your ego at the door. And in politics, that's very hard to do for a lot of people. I have checked my ego from day one that I've gotten involved. Because you are fighting for a cause, or we are fighting for a cause bigger than ourselves. Randy has quite the appetite. So he's sorry, but he's not really sorry. So smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. I thank you all. Yes, I am working again. We love you all. We appreciate you all. And we'll see you Monday in Free Palestine. Good night, guys.